When I first met Emily, I never imagined that a single friendship could change the way I viewed myself, life, and the people around me. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I was 31 when I decided to take a much-needed break from my monotonous routine. I was a freelance graphic designer living in Austin, Texas, and though my work was flexible, my life felt rigid. I woke up, made coffee, worked, and scrolled endlessly through social media. I had friends, sure, but no one I truly connected with anymore. That changed the moment I booked a group hiking trip through the Colorado Rockies. It was something I'd wanted to do for years but always postponed because I was too busy. When I finally clicked confirm booking, I felt a rush of nervous excitement, like I was giving myself permission to breathe again. The first day of the trip, we all met at a small lodge outside Denver. There were 12 of us, including the guide. Most were strangers, and everyone seemed to already know someone. I was standing near the coffee station, pretending to be deeply invested in the sugar packets, when someone next to me said, "Do you also do this awkward thing where you try not to look lonely in a group?" I turned to see a woman with shoulder-length auburn hair, freckles across her cheeks, and a friendly grin. She wore a blue flannel and hiking boots that looked well-loved. Guilty, I laughed, grateful for the icebreaker. "I'm Emily," she said, extending her hand. "Sarah." That's how it started. Simple, easy, and unexpected. Over the next few days, Emily and I became inseparable. We hiked side by side, shared snacks, complained about the cold, and took turns guessing who in the group would quit first. She had this lightness about her, an ability to find humor even when the trail got tough. When we reached the summit of our first big climb, she threw her hands up and shouted, "See, we didn't die. That's a win." We laughed until our sides hurt. That night, the group gathered around a campfire. Someone played guitar, and others roasted marshmallows. Emily and I sat a little apart, talking quietly about life. She told me she was from Portland and worked as a travel blogger. She had been on the road for years, chasing sunsets and writing stories. "You're brave," I told her. She shook her head. "Not brave, just restless. You know that feeling when you want to stay but also need to go." I nodded because I understood. My whole life had been a pattern of wanting something new but being too afraid to chase it. As the night deepened, the sky turned into a sea of stars. Emily looked up and whispered, "Do you ever feel like life's too short to not get lost once in a while?" Her words stayed with me long after I returned to my tent. The next morning, the trail guide announced a change in plans. The next leg of the hike was going to be steeper and longer. A few people groaned, but Emily's face lit up. "Adventure, finally," she said. Halfway through the trail, rain started pouring. The air grew cold, and the path turned muddy. My jacket was soaked, and I began shivering uncontrollably. Emily noticed and handed me her spare poncho. "Here, can't have my new friend freezing on me." I smiled, grateful for her kindness. We trudged forward, laughing about how miserable we looked. Then, out of nowhere, I slipped. My foot hit a slick patch of mud, and before I knew it, I was on the ground, wet and embarrassed. Emily reached for me immediately, helping me up. "You okay?" she asked, concern etched across her face. "I'm fine, just my pride's a little bruised," I said. She laughed softly. "Good, because I wasn't planning on carrying you down this mountain." We both burst into laughter again, our voices echoing through the rain. That evening, the group reached a small cabin that served as our shelter for the night. The guide warned us that we might lose power due to the storm, so we lit candles and gathered inside. The atmosphere felt cozy, almost magical. Emily sat near the window, staring at the lightning in the distance. "Nature is beautiful even when it's wild," she said quietly. I joined her, and we watched the storm together. Something about that night felt intimate, not romantic, but deeply personal. It was as if we had both peeled back a layer of ourselves that we usually kept hidden. The next morning, the storm had cleared, leaving everything glistening. The mountains looked freshly washed, and the air smelled like pine and rain. Emily and I walked ahead of the group, taking pictures and talking about our dreams. She asked me, "What's something you've always wanted to do but never had the courage to?" Without thinking, I said, "Start my own studio. I've always wanted to create something that's fully mine, but I guess I'm scared it might fail." Emily smiled. "You should do it. Failure is just proof that you tried." That simple sentence felt like a key turning in a locked door inside me. As the days went on, our bond deepened. Emily had this way of reminding me that life was more than schedules and fear. She told me stories about the people she'd met while traveling, a woman who ran a bakery in Italy, a fisherman who painted in his spare time, a couple who turned a bus into their home. Every story was a reminder that ordinary people could live extraordinary lives if they dared to. On the final day of the trip, our group reached a lookout point that overlooked the valley below. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Everyone took photos, but Emily just stood there quietly. What are you thinking? I asked. She smiled. That I'll probably forget most of this view in a few years. But I'll remember how it felt, standing here, tired and alive, next to someone who reminded me that friendship can be just as transformative as love. Her words made my eyes sting. When we said goodbye the next day, it felt heavier than I expected. We exchanged numbers, promising to stay in touch. I returned home to Austin feeling like a different person. The city seemed smaller, but my heart felt bigger. A week later, I received a postcard in the mail. It was from Emily. On the front was a picture of the mountains we'd climbed. On the back, she'd written, "Keep going, Sarah. The world is waiting for your studio." That night, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and filed the paperwork to start my own design business. Months passed, and life took on a new rhythm. My studio grew slowly, but it grew. I kept the postcard pinned above my desk as a reminder that courage sometimes comes disguised as friendship. Emily and I kept in touch through calls and letters. She was always on the move, from Alaska to Spain to Japan, but she always checked in, always encouraged me. A year after our trip, she surprised me again, this time by showing up at my studio unannounced. When I saw her standing at the door, backpack slung over one shoulder and that familiar grin on her face, I couldn't help but laugh. "You didn't tell me you were coming," I said. "Wouldn't be a surprise if I did," she replied. We spent that weekend exploring Austin together, reliving our mountain memories, and celebrating how far we'd both come. It was during that trip that I realized something important. Sometimes the best adventures aren't about places, they're about people. Emily's friendship reminded me that discovery isn't just about traveling the world, it's about rediscovering yourself through the people who walk beside you, even if only for a while. When she left again, I didn't feel sad. I felt grateful. Some people come into your life to stay, and others to help you find your way. Emily had done both, and though she was miles away, her words still echoed in my heart. "Keep going, Sarah. The world is waiting."